What's up, everybody? I got a guest. I had a guest come in during the intro. Yeah, the Wicked Queen. I love her. So how's everybody doing today? Hope y'all are doing well. Before we get into tonight's topic, just a couple things I want to talk about. First of all, I don't know if he's watching, but I want to wish one of our brothers a very, very happy birthday, and that is none other than Aaron Hoffman, also known as Shadow. You're getting old, man. You're getting old. But I just want to wish him a very happy birthday if he's watching. If you haven't already, head on over, send him some love. And also, I don't know, I'm sure everybody knows by now. I also want to talk about the huge hit we took in the entertainment industry with Darth Vader. What are you doing?
My Velcro strap on the green screen behind me is like jabbing me in the back.
Ooh. But
it's fixed.
Okay, that's good. But I want to talk about the loss of James Earl Jones. Darth Vader passed away.
Yeah, I was hoping it was one of those internet hoaxes.
So was I. We were talking about it at work last night, and man, our childhood is disappearing. I mean, we lost America's grandmother, Betty White, lost Robin Williams, now James Earl Jones. I don't think we'll ever lose Tom Cruise, though. Isn't he a vampire?
No. But we're old, dude. That's
You ain't lying.
Yeah.
You ain't lying. But yeah, our childhood is just disappearing very quickly, and it's like, Jesus Christ. But anyway, tonight we're here. We're gonna I got my brother Tanner with me from Ghost Hunter Advice, and we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about some things. But before we get into that, I see Mr. Fedora, the Fedorable one. What's up, brother? Scott Morton from Morton Side of Paranormal, and he's wishing Aaron a happy birthday. And I didn't know that. Did you know that? He learned that he was James Earl was the first celebrity guest of Sesame Street.
That's awesome.
That is cool. I mean, warranted. Very warranted. Speaking of Sesame Street, have you ever seen Robin Williams bloopers with Elmo at Sesame Street?
Yeah, those are awesome.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, folks, tonight, Tanner and I, see, I love working with Tanner because Tanner gives me ideas, good and bad, mainly good. But we did a show on consulting and basically helping out on his show, which you definitely got to go check out. And he gave me an idea. So here we are. One thing that we talk about in the field is the field itself, the investigating, all these different things, but we never get into the basic building blocks, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of an actual investigation. So Tanner and I are going to talk about this type of stuff tonight. So Tanner, brother, welcome back. We've been seeing a lot of each other, and I love it.
Yeah, we've been teaming up on a lot of stuff lately. It's been fun. I usually do solo shows, so like having another person to bounce off of is a lot of fun.
This is one you need to bounce off of. You and your duck lips. Fedora. And if you're finding any value, yeah. Like, subscribe, like button. Yeah. I see. I remember Fedora. See? I just said it. Just said it. And there he is. I love Fedora. So, but yeah, Tanner, it's really cool working with you because you put a different spin on things for me. You really helped me out with a lot of something to spell. I don't know what it was, but it's going to stay down there. But you put a different spin on a lot of different things for me, and I really appreciate that. But tonight, we really want to dive into, like I said, the basics that don't usually get talked about. So, Jonathan, how you doing, brother?
What's up, man?
So let's first start off, and just let everybody know this is about client investigations. This isn't about anything else. This is just client based because a lot of people think that you just start a paranormal team, people just throw their cases at you or their homes at you. Not even close. So we're going to talk about that. So I think first let's talk about getting clients. Let's start with that.
Yeah, it's just like running a business. You have to market. People aren't just going to show up. Now, after I did this for a couple years, I was trying to keep my name out of it. So I was doing it like on the DL. So it was referral only. So for a while, it was a little different for me. But if you're forming a team and you're going public with it, like Mystique that I used to work with, getting clients is just like running a business. And there's a little bit of money that you're going to have to put behind it. Not a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can make a great website on Wix that's very professional to get up there. When it comes to SEO, search engine optimization, so you're showing up in Google, being on Google Maps and stuff is super important. So we'll walk through all that. But what do you recommend? What's been great for getting you clients in the post 1999 era?
Well, first starting out, and we've said this so many times, the marketing aspect of it, promoting. But before any of that, in my opinion, you need to decide what kind of team you want to run. That's first and foremost. That's your most basic thing right there as a founder or a lead investigator. Like, are you going to be taking on clientele? Are you going to be doing this as a professional? Or is it just amateurs? And I don't mean anything negative by any of that statement, but there are some teams out there, and let's be honest with each other, who do it just for fun, which is perfectly fine. But then there's others who want to get more in depth. They want to be, what you see on TV. Well, some shows. We're not going to start. It's too early to bring that up. But like I was telling Tanner, after the show, the last show we did, like Ghost Hunters. The first 4 seasons, I use that as training material, not for entertainment. So for me, it's what kind of team do you want to run? And you as a founder and an investor need to figure that out. Me, I wanted to do this to help people. I wanted the client base. So I think that's the first step. Once you discover that, what size team do you want? Because that's something you and I even discussed. I ran a 9. Well, I had more investigators, but during an investigation, I had 9 people. And I know a lot of investigators, and Tanner even had this reaction. He's like, that's a lot.
Huge number of people.
And so I think that's the first starting point for most teams. And you have to set up a dynamic and get all what we're going to talk about in the back of your mind before you even begin. But as far as the client side of it, you have to know how you want to market and how you want to promote. You have to. Me personally, it's been t-shirts, and I've done, iron-ons. I've done, gone to these little hole in the wall places, mom and pop places for iron-on shirts and stuff. Business cards to me, they're invaluable. They are probably the cheapest, but I've spent the most on them. I don't know about you, but I've probably bought 10,000, if not more, business cards. So I still have some.
I started doing that for podcasts too. Like you can leave them in bathrooms on top of urinals and like in different random places, and you won't pick up a whole lot of listeners, but you'll pick up some. I think a big part of this too, like when you're getting stuff together, I don't like team shirts. I hate like investigators wearing t-shirts into houses
Really?
because, I try to go in as discreetly as possible when I'm at people's properties, because when you're starting out, if you do get access to those more historical properties, those more historical neighborhoods, higher income individuals, they don't want like you might be going. One guy was he was the head architect at a very very large firm here in Tennessee, and he did not want a van showing up with taps on the side and people wearing like branded "I'm a ghost hunter" T-shirt carrying stuff in. He wanted it to look more like, just kind of show up, carry the cases in. People are going to think you're here doing work. We don't want the neighbors to know. Very very discreet.
I'm glad you said that because I've done the discreet stuff too. I've actually asked, and this is part of the client interview process. Like I'll ask, do you mind us wearing our uniforms? And I call them uniforms. I don't say shirts. Because that just sounds weird. Like, do you want me to wear a shirt? Yeah, that doesn't roll off the tongue too well. But no, I've done the discreet thing, but I also, me personally, I like the shirts, especially when you're out in public. You're a billboard. You're a billboard for your team and your business. I mean, think of it this way. When you go to an amusement park and you see a group of people together, just with random street clothes on, it's just a group of people. If you see a group of people with the same shirt, same logo, same design, something's going on. That will draw attention. So to me, I have the shirts. I love the shirts. I love promoting that way. And I also have a different variety. The shirts, hoodies, polos for those types of incidences. Like you don't want paranormal team written on all over your back. You go into those higher end areas, it looks professional. But no, I always ask. And I think that's a lot of, I don't know how many paranormal teams ask that or not, but you want your clients to feel very comfortable with that. What other marketing?
Well, a big thing with your marketing, you have to decide like what's the point of your website. You have to decide what's the point of your team. As far as, are you trying to get eyeballs on content? Are you doing investigations to like professional investigations, but more so to put content out to entertain and do like this side of it? Or are you trying to attract people that actually need help? Because those two websites look totally different and should not touch each other. So like you want your content to, like, whatever content you're putting out, social media, website, business cards, you want it to be more about your knowledge. You want it to be more about the problems that they're having using this is SEO, being able to use those episode titles or blog titles that are direct answers to questions that they're putting on Google. I like to use Google Search Console, and I like ghosthunteradvice.com. I pull that up once a week and I look at where I'm showing up in searches, because it'll show me the questions that people are asking that I'm showing up in. And then I can make more content to answer those specific questions so that I show up in more searches and get more clicks.
That's fair. And that's good. And that's something newer to our field. I feel like, I'm trying to think back to starting out when I first started the team. Like I had Craigslist ads out. I was doing interviews with investigators, and it's not like a job interview, I'd have 2 or 3 interviews before I brought them on board to the team. But 100%, it's this day and age, it's a little bit easier, I think, for paranormal teams to market. I really like what Fedora said. I don't know if you caught that. Leaffoot, I love Lee. Leaffoot's more elusive than Bigfoot, by the way. They threw a couple of beach balls with their Facebook page painted on them, then threw them into the river. About a year later, we actually got a person find us, and it was almost to Pittsburgh. So
wow,
you're talking another, what would you say, Fedora? Probably about 3 hours downriver. Like top of PA. They're in the top of PA. Pittsburgh's almost to the bottom.
Wow. Now, I'm not going to condone throwing plastic into a river.
No,
just from an environmental standpoint, but that is pretty cool that it made it that far and you got a call of it. That is neat.
But that's something else. Like, you never know. You never know who or where is gonna, like. That's why I have my tattoo. I was telling Tanner backstage. There is no such thing as bad promoting. I mean, there's a way of promoting that's good and bad, but if you just find a team or get your team together, get it started, get a logo, get at least a piece of merch together, just wear it out. Just wear it out first, and just walk around it. Somebody will see it. Somebody will notice you, and to me, you have to find them. You've got to be proactive. If you see somebody staring at your shirt, go talk to them. Go talk to them.
I do like hats. Hats are my favorite. Even like when I go to a client's house, I was a private investigator for 15 years. I noticed that I got more information out of people if I dressed one step above what they were wearing. So if I'm going to someone who I know is probably going to be in jeans and a t-shirt, shorts and a t-shirt, I'm probably going to wear khakis and a polo. From being an investigator, I have everything it looks like khakis and a polo, but it's really made out of like athletic wear. And it looks good, but it also breathes. It's super comfortable. It's stain resistant, so I can crawl around in their houses and stuff. I've got slacks, ties, dress shirts that are made of the same stuff. They look great, look super professional if I'm going to one of those more high-end clients. And like sweaters, like think what you would see on The Conjuring, and I'm probably wearing the modern version of that when I go on these things, and maybe a hat.
Fair enough.
But it puts me in a position to where they're answering my questions. I'm a person of authority, and they trust me. And I picked that up from being a private investigator.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And we, believe it or not, folks, I actually have some notes written down. That's why I'm a little off my game, but I want to make sure we hit everything. But I think that's something else too, is when you're wearing your merch out, your marketing, your networking, you got to remember you and your team are representing each other. Don't go out acting like a bunch of idiots, because that's going to look terrible on you. Be professional, be friendly, be someone who is approachable, I think. And I really like your idea, Tanner, of wearing something a step up of who you're going to meet, because believe it or not, folks, that's a sales trick, and I love it. I absolutely. Oh, stop it! Look at Fedora. Yeah, see.
Yeah, like every interaction that you have with people should build trust and value. Like when they do call, and we'll get into it when they do call, about how to establish trust on the conversations and how important those initial conversations are, especially for like fact gathering. But the big thing is you want them to trust you and rely on you, because you want to see this thing through to the end, and you're going to have to talk them into doing a lot of times some things that might be pretty uncomfortable. Yeah. So by going ahead and starting off as a professional and as an authority in the field, you backed yourself up. Like with Ghost Hunter Advice, I have advice that goes out on the blog. If they go to my page, it's not a bunch of like spooky stuff and a bunch of us running around and cussing and screaming and running around in the dark with cameras. It's information and resources that specifically directly answer those questions, because that's what I decided to do. If you want to go on the more entertainment side, and do the investigations and stuff, and do a more of a TV type thing, that is a totally different approach. Totally different marketing plan.
100%. And that's something else too. I think a lot of teams might forget, and you and I have said this before. We go in there and we're there for 6 to 8 hours. I saw it. Yeah. We'll get it. I love Fedora. But we're in there for 6 to 8 hours. We'll just say on average. These clients live there. So when the investigation's done, they've got to deal with the consequences, not you. So they are inviting you into their home in a vulnerable time, and they want that comfort. So you've got to represent yourself and your team properly. So yes, this is the comment. They don't want this.
If it happens, if you are uncomfortable and you need to walk out, that's fine. If there's something happens and it's a danger, like maybe the structure itself is a danger, run, get your butt out of there. But oh my God, dude, run.
We called it dude run syndrome on our team.
So like with marketing, just to recap, Get some business cards, get
Yep.
some good looking t-shirts, not like a bunch of graphic stuff. You can do that for merch for other people to wear around. That's a great way to attract stuff, but get like a good professional look for you and your team so you're put together. Carry yourself well in conversations. Get a good website together and focus on SEO so you're showing up in Google, because 90% of the people that are looking for a paranormal investigator go to Google and they Google paranormal investigator, they Google ghost hunter. And the reason I have that name is because my number one search is ghost hunter advice,
Yep.
advice on ghost hunting. And it's a
Yep.
combination of those, and those are the top searches. So choosing your team name is a big part of your marketing step.
No,
But
100%.
we've been on this one for 20 minutes. What
Yeah, and we're just starting, folks. Sleeves are up.
Yes.
So let's move, because the next part is, I don't want people to get ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
Because there is a side of this that Tanner and I were talking backstage, and actually Tanner's coming out with his version of some of this, and I'm coming out with my version of some of this, and that's the paperwork side of it.
Mhm.
There are so many different pieces of paper that you need, in my opinion, and I'm assuming Tanner's here,
Mhm.
before you even step into a client's house. You have to have liability. You have to have some sort of, I don't want to say, how do I say this? You want them to feel reassured, and you want them to feel like you're a professional, even though there are no professionals in our field. You can still act professional, and that's the paperwork side of it. You have to have a paper trail. We all know about having log books or having a notebook when we investigate. That's great. That's what you want to have. But what you don't realize is, or what you may not have, is your case file. Let's start with that.
Mhm.
The case file itself. Tanner he showed me a little template. He's got case numbers. Did you always do that? Like case numbers with your,
Yeah, and that comes from, like, my background in criminal justice and investigating. We tracked everything through case numbers. It makes it super fast to pull up. I also use a case management system called The Plan, and that
okay.
has all of that in there. So a lot of my paperwork is just a paper version of The Plan, that is like $20. The first time I got it, it was on a CD. Now it's on a website, and you know what? I need to do an affiliate link for that, because I
Hmm.
refer everybody. It's like $20, and it's a download. You can store your evidence. You can put the video files, the audio files, and everything, and attach those to the document and the final reports. It's got narratives in there for all of your investigators, the log of everything that happened during the investigation, all of your client intake stuff, and places to upload PDFs if you have your own questionnaires and things.
Fair enough. See,
Mhm.
I always, my case files, you guys know me, I'm very simple. I use dates. I use dates, and that's it. And because typically whenever we would set up a case, we would have an actual calendar, not like an electronic one, an actual calendar with the name and address of the client. So that way, if they call, hey, somebody's, something happened, whatever, we go back on the calendar, we see the date, whatever date that was, and then we can go right to the case file. But in your case file, you'd want a bunch of different pieces of paper in there. There's a bunch of different things that I think some people forget. One of them is the insurance. You need some kind of insurance to cover your ass. And Tanner, you said you have or haven't looked into the insurance side of it for when you were investigating.
I did a little. The When you're doing this, because it's a hobby, you're not charging any money or anything for it. Getting a general liability policy is going to be pretty freaking difficult. The closest that I have seen, because I have a podcast and because I am doing things for a book, like when I go out and do an investigation now, it's generally for content. Yes, I'm helping people and doing things, but it's under the Ghost Hunter Advice logo, and I can get a policy for general liability that is about $1 million of coverage, but it's for a production. It's basically production insurance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now mine was a little different. Now when I started out and I had my insurance, my policy, believe it or not, and I was telling Tanner this, it was actually a tweaked renter's policy. As weird as that sounds. Um, But what I suggest to everybody is at least go talk to whoever your insurance is through. Talk to your agent, explain what you got going on, and they'll be able to direct you. Because I am not any type of insurance broker or whatever, but just go talk to them, see what they can do. You need to let them know what you're up to, how much you want to be insured for, because let's be honest, whether you're going into a client's house, you're going into like a museum, some kind of historical location, you break it, you buy it, and then some.
Now, if you break it, I'm going to go ahead and say most insurance policies probably not going to cover it. But if somebody comes back to sue you, that's what it's there for. Now, I've been doing this for close to 25 years now. Nobody sued me.
Yeah,
lawsuits in this are incredibly rare because most courts are going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear. I'd love to be in a hearing with that. I would love to just to hear the judge's reaction. But you definitely want yourself covered. And the other side of it too is think about the health side of it. Your investigators, your team, your clients. Most clients aren't. I will say this: most clients aren't going to be covered. But if you go out to like a cemetery or something like that, you bring guests along, that could help you out too, help them out. But you want to cover your ass, cover your bases. So there's never so much thing as too much.
If you were bringing guests on your investigations, so that is going to be something you can get insured for, but it's going to be insured as a tour company. Like if there's a slip and fall during the when you're walking around, and they're going to have to play with the policy a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, most insurance companies for what you're going to need, you're probably looking somewhere between $20-$50 a month.
Yeah. And, we're talking about insurance, we're talking about these forms, talking about a lot of different things here. A lot of people are probably wondering, well, how do you pay for that? Because most of us we're broke bitches. Yo, I can barely pay attention. I go in debt every time I do. But honestly, folks, where that comes in at is your dues, your team dues. And that's another reason why I liked having a bigger team, because the dues were smaller. You come up with a budget, you come up with how much you need to spend, how much you want to spend, what you're looking at doing. And sorry, I'm getting messages. Raymond, stop it. You know about distracting me. But when you have dues, your team actually helps you pay for everything. So there's really not much out of pocket, which is nice. And that can go for a variety of different things. It go for, your merchandise, your business cards, the insurance we're talking about, computer, printer, ink, whatever you need. All that will actually cover itself when you have these dues. And it's very important to, and again, cover your ass, have your team under a contract. I mean, don't be, a dictator. Don't put the dick in dictator. You keep yourself in check too. Put yourself under the contract. Come up with a bit, a statement of what you want, what you expect, what are the requirements of the team, what you're looking for. And I was telling Tanner this. I go outside of like a notary place, and I'd wait till some random ass stranger was walking by. I'd be like, hey, can you help me out real quick? Can you actually watch us sign this real quick? And while it's getting notarized, so we have an extra witness. They're like, like it's the looks I got was great, but it does help out. And you hold everybody under contract and include dues. Even with, like, we were talking about equipment. And Tanner asked me flat out whenever, somebody would leave the team, what we would do with the equipment. Well, that depends. If somebody buys equipment for the team, that's team property. It's 100% team property, and they're under that contract that covers. If freaking Raymond, he just sent me, by the way, Tanner, not to go on a tangent, Raymond just sent me a private message in Messenger. This is, hey Matt. Fucker. I love Raymond. He's my brother. But yeah, you basically are covering all those bases. And then if somebody buys something for themselves and they bring it along, that's theirs. That's 100% theirs. But stuff like that, you want to keep, especially when the money's involved. When money's involved, I don't care how great of friends you are. When there's money involved, things get a little sketchy. So you want something in black and white. You want something legal to cover your ass and cover theirs.
Mhm.
And then you don't have to, like I said, the contract doesn't have to be anything, terrible. You don't need a lawyer to have, be present for the signing of it, but just something along the lines of being professional, being understanding, being on time to meetings, and have that checks and balances. Like I had a 3-strike policy with my teams. If they missed a meeting, they missed a client investigation, they missed some kind of function that they just didn't show up. I'm not saying, family emergency, they're sick, whatever, that's fine. But if they just didn't show up, that was a strike.
Mhm.
And I'm a baseball player, so guess what? 3 strikes and you're out. But I also, if we had a meeting, an emergency meeting for a client investigation, or we had a meeting planned for an investigation, a client one, and they never showed up, they didn't go to the investigation. It's that simple. They didn't pay their dues. You're not going to the investigation. You have to keep everybody in check and keep receipts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. Just every once in a while, there's a conflict or something within a team, and having the bylaws, having everything down in writing, and then having the dues and how things are going to be handled. It keeps things from being awkward on your side. Some people are going to get ticked off, but yeah, no, it makes things run a lot smoother when you have a team.
100%. And one little trick, if you are a founder, you are looking to start a team, one thing I love to do is to take the focus, especially when it came to money, off of myself. Like I would keep very, very close attention to what was going on, but I'd have a treasurer, and her job was to make sure everybody's paying, everything's all caught up, the receipts are there, everything's going to where it's supposed to be going, money's going where it's supposed to be going. So that way, if something happens, nobody comes to me. I've got enough to worry about, let alone money on top of that. So spread out, to me, the responsibilities when you're running a team. It's okay to have like a treasurer, a case manager, lead investigator, equipment manager, tech manager, a bunch of different things. Like you could have any type of position you want on the team, but it's obviously up to your people and your investigators. You don't want somebody who's terrible with money doing your treasury. Not a good idea. You don't want an accountant that's bad at math. Trust me. It's not a good idea. But yeah, so definitely spread that around. And we're gonna kind of fly through a couple of these because we're already in a half hour.
Yeah.
I love this. We kind of talked about location finding. It's pretty simple, guys. Location finding, network, talk, do some. Now you can do some Google searches. You can look at different places. Make sure that they're accessible at night or during the day whenever you want to investigate, and make sure the owners are aware of what you're doing, and make sure your local authorities are aware of what you're doing, especially at night. Contact them and ask permission. If the owner says, ask the owner first, and the owner's all cool with it, call your local authorities, let them know what's going on, and say, hey, I've already spoken to the owner about it. Here's their contact information. If you have any questions, they already gave me permission. I'm just letting you know. So if you get any calls, you can explain what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Are you okay with this? And leave it in their court. Because they just may say, you know what? No, I don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want that around here. Okay, cool. And call the owner back and say, listen, we'll have to do this another time, or you'll have to talk to the authorities. They don't want us in. But never put yourself in the middle of that type of battle. Not a good idea.
I have a form. I do. I handle it a little different. So if I have the property owner's permission, it doesn't matter what the cops say. But I get a signed form. It's the permission to be on the property. It's signed by the property owner. It also has a release of liability. So it has a release of liability for the property owner. So if I trip and break my leg, it says I can't sue him. If something happens on my end and I trip over and I break a statue, it's got this is at our own risk type thing.
Yeah.
Now, if it's within my power to replace something, I will replace it if I break it. I've never broken something on somebody's property, but it's got protections in there for both sides. And when the police show up and they're like, "Hey, we want you to get out of here," I'm like, "Well, this is a property owner. This is his phone number. Feel free to give him a call. I don't got to leave."
Yeah. I do. I did have those as well. I did have these. I did have the liability waivers and stuff like that. That's all part of the insurance side of it, and that's all part of covering your ass. Me, I'm just not one to make waves, especially because to me, I'm not saying what Tanner was doing is wrong. It's not. He's 100% legit with it. That's his right, and that's the owner's right. Me, I just didn't want to cause any issues between the owner and the local authorities.
Mhm.
That was just my take on it. But yeah, no, 100%. Again, you cannot over cover your ass, if you know
Mhm.
what I mean. Even the most mundane, boring paperwork has its reason for it. And trust me, if something happens and you don't have that paperwork, you wish you did.
Mhm. And keep a waiver with you, like, what he was saying with the cops, and I have had the cops show up, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing out here?" And I would show them the paperwork, and they're like, "Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Can I stay?" And I would have them sign a waiver, and they would, like, we had cops stay with us and go through stuff all the time. But
It was funny in San Diego. They actually knew me as the paranormal dude,
Mhm.
so they would drive by and you get the rookies; they're all chest
Mhm.
out and everything like that. Damn. And the veteran cop, I just wave at him. He's just like, "Oh, it's just a paranormal dude. Just leave him the fuck alone. Come on, let's go. We got other shit, Or they come over and talk to us. They investigate with us. It's great, especially at a spirit box session. You get an SB7 going, and you start
Mhm.
getting responses from and the cops are there. They don't hang out too much longer
I
after that. It's funny.
don't.
It is hilarious. You think cops are like Mr. Billy Badass and stuff like that? Dead people start talking to them, they run. I love it.
Yeah, man, I've gotten access to certain locations just because I knew the cops.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are under their historical locations that don't have ownership, and they're under the protection of the city. So like they'll go through on their patrol and check them, and like we get call, hey, that was super fun last week, and I'm actually checking this house out that has a reputation. You want to come over and do the walkthrough with me while I'm checking the property? I'm like, yes, I do. I'll have my stuff over there in a second.
And it's like, Bucker, I'm outside waiting for you. Let's go.
Mhm.
The other thing we want to discuss tonight, guys, is team selection. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about as well, because you want to start a team. You already have your size of your team ready to go. You already know what type of team you want, but you don't know what type of people you want. Obviously, you want a group of individuals that you can relate to. I'll be honest, and this is nothing against anybody. I don't like having couples. I don't like having couples in a paranormal team, and I don't like friends. I like strangers,
Hmm.
and there's a reason behind that. Number one, validity. If something happens to a boyfriend or girlfriend, they're gonna validate. They're like, "Oh yeah, that really happened. Yeah, you got to trust him." As soon as you hear that, I'm telling you right now, I don't trust it at all. Same way with the friends. Friends tend to get ideas. Like, look at Raymond and I. Would you trust Raymond and I together? I wouldn't. But I like bringing in people who have no affiliation with each other. That's just me. I learn their background, learn who they are. I like what they're talking about. I like their personality. I feel like I could trust them. Take them out on a couple investigations. See what they think. Because there's some people, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do this. They get out there, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just agreeing with you. Not on the couples and the friends thing. I don't go that far. I actually, when I ran a team, I was like, hey, do you have a friend that wants to come out? Because I liked having that people like knowing each other. Now, I was a forensic interviewer. The questions that we asked and the way that we did things, it was like if you see something, write it down, and then I'll
Yep.
read it, and then I'll read what the other person saw, and I want to see if those two things match up. Now, if something matches 100% the exact same words in the statement, I know that they played off each other, which I didn't have happen. But there should be enough consistency that it's believable, but there has to be some differences between the statements. And that gets into when we get into interviewing people and we get into interviewing witnesses and homeowners and stuff. But yeah, as long as I found that I could trust them. Now, if I ever caught somebody lying, they were kicked out, and that only happened once or twice. But yeah.
See, yeah, no, I agree. I don't play that game. If you're faking evidence, you're making stuff up, you're gone. I'm not
Mhm.
playing that game either. No, I don't know what it was, but when I first thought about it, started talking about it, like take me and the Wicked Queen, for example. we didn't know each other while the team was going on. It wasn't until after that we got together. That's whatever. You know, two investigators, and we're human. People have an attraction, and they're already on the team. Cool. But I'm
It's
not.
scary. Hold me.
I'm not. No. There's so many different comments, but we'll save that for later. Stop it. But I don't bring on couples together. I don't. And that's just the way I always was. To me, I may trust the individual, but I don't trust a couple. To me, it's too much of a liability. They want to cover for each other, and friends are the same way to me. If I'm going to these clients' houses, I want to make sure that each personal experience is a personal experience. It's not something that, you know, there's no power of suggestion. And to me, if you're a lifelong friend or a couple, that power of suggestion is going to hit you. And that's too much of a liability. That's just me. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but the client interview process, you got a team, you got your group together, you're promoting, you're doing everything the right way. You get a phone call saying, I have a demon. I have a demon in my house, which FYI folks, at least 90 to 95% of the calls I've gotten in the past 20 plus years, that's what I've heard. I have a demon in my house. No. No.
Yeah, no, when the call comes in, this is your first chance to really build trust. Like, they've probably interacted with your content, they've probably been on your website crawling through all the stuff, and maybe a couple of other teams, and they decided that you're the most trustworthy to call, and they're probably freaked out about it, and they probably think you're a weirdo. So the first thing you want to do is like have a professional, calm tone. I'm going to be pretty monotone, and I talk to them with probably this tone of voice.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about what's going on. Hey, all right, so first off, how did you find me? And because I want to track that, and I want to know what's working. All right. So just take it from the top and tell me why you felt the need to reach out to a ghost hunter. And we'll go through and we'll start having a conversation. I'm going to ask questions based on what they're telling me. I'm not going to go super in depth on this phone call, but we're going to talk about some possible solutions. I'm going to try to find out what they've done so far and get a little bit of information. But my big thing here is building trust so that they do decide to go with me and I can take the case if I want it. So brief summary of everything. I'm going to show some value here. I'm going to give them some suggestions to try out. Like, let's see if this is legit. I want you to keep a journal for the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
And let's set up a time to do a more in-depth interview. I do it through Zoom. So our next touch point, I am going to walk them forwards through the story, backwards through the story, ask questions about it out of order. I'm going to look for anything that is inconsistent. When I find something I believe is inconsistent, I'm going to drill down into it until I am satisfied. Here's what happened on one that this guy was calling. It was a poltergeist case. Things were flying around his house. He was scared. Through the phone interview, he sounded sane. And then when we got to, told me that I always ask the question, I'm not going to not believe you, but I do need to know, is there anyone in the house with mental illness? Do you or any family members or relative have a history of anything like schizophrenia or any sort of mental issue? Are you taking medication? Are you taking anything that could alter your mind, alter your perception? And I'm going to get a no on that on the phone calls. Every time.
Yep.
Now, when we get into the interview and things start to go a little sideways or hinky, that's when I'm going to revisit those questions. And with one particular person, it went from poltergeist to P. Diddy and Empire Records injecting themselves with an invisibility serum and running around his house and tormenting him and tormenting his therapist. And when we said therapist, I brought back the mental illness, and it turned out he was off of his meds, and that I'll spend an hour talking to people. But on that one, I referred him back to his therapist, and that was the end of that one. Now, on other investigations or other cases where that's going to happen a lot, FYI, that is going to happen a lot. Not to that extreme, but you're going to disqualify people.
I was going to say P. Diddy will not always be in your home, guys. Sorry.
No, he's there a lot though. But after that, we're going to move through to me doing an in-depth background. And this is the first phase of background. So I'm going to walk through and I'm going to check out the location first. I'm going to do a reverse address lookup. I'm going to see who's lived there and just get a name and an idea of the property. I'm going to look through Zillow and see what it goes for to give me an idea of, some idea of financials, whether they're renting, whether they bought it. It's going to give me an idea of who used to live there and whether I should try to reach out to a landlord later on to try to get information on prior tenants. Um, and I'm going to look at newspaper clippings. I'm going to start going through Google. I'm going to start looking for any instance of something that could have happened there at the property that might explain things, any local legends, local lore about properties, especially in small towns. That crops up a lot. But I'm going to do all this online. I'm going to spend about an hour on it. Then I'm going to do the person. I'm going to do backgrounds. I'm going to pull from Checkmate or Been Verified or somewhere like that to get an address history. I'm going to go to the courts online, see if there's any criminal charges, see if there's anything pending for narcotics, anything violent, anything that would cue to be a safety concern for me. And then I'm going to go through their social media and I'm going to start looking at character. Is this a person who does a lot of stuff for attention? Is this a person who's pretty level? Is this an engineer who's been at their job for 20 years and has a family of 4 and they drive like 2 minivans? I want to know who I'm dealing with. Or is this a person who has had some struggles in the past? Or is this somebody who's a social media influencer and is going to put everything online and try to do, something? I want to know who I'm talking to. If they make it through all that, I scheduled the and they get the thing back to me. So I'm doing this while I'm waiting on that journal to come back. So the journal comes back. That's going to give me some ideas of when things are happening.
Yep.
It's going to give me an idea of when to plan the vigil, what to look for, what night's going to be the best night to get evidence when I go out there, or what nights. Yeah, because a lot of times we're going to do multiple nights or multiple days, and then that's pretty much the intake. So from there, if they don't bring it back, they don't even care enough to fill out a journal for 2 weeks. That's it. Case is dead. It's not worth my time because it's not a priority to them, and I'm not going to waste the 80 to 160 hours that I'm going to spend sunk on this case at least. And that's my intake process.
Very in depth. And, mine's a little different, but it's still bottom line. This, folks, a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work. For me, once the initial contact happens, whether it's a phone call, email, if it's an email, immediately I want to get them on the phone. From a sales aspect, and Tanner will attest to this too, you can tell a lot of people just by the tone of their voice.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell the credibility. You can tell if they're doing it for a laugh. You can whatever, or you can actually hear if they're really scared, if something's really going on. Even if there is mental illness, there is something going on, and we need to help them. But pretty much the phone interview is almost the same as Tanner's. The first thing I say to them is, look, 2 things are going to happen right now. Whatever you tell me is 100% confidential. I am not going to go out. I'm not going to start spreading it out. No one's going to know what you're going to tell me besides my team, who is under contract. There's an NDA. They cannot say anything. It's all confidential. The other thing I want to tell you is I will believe you, whatever you tell me. You are not crazy. You are not going crazy. I want to know what's going on. And that's that reassurance. That's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to reassure your client. That's going to make them want to open up. The other thing that's going to do is that's going to put them in a more calm state. Once they hear all this, especially you're not crazy, you'll actually hear them go, you'll hear that breath, like, finally. And I don't know how many times you've heard that, Tanner, but I heard it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an actual breath you will hear. And you sit there and you do the number one best thing that you can do is shut up. I know it sounds rude, but it's the truth. Let them go. Let them talk. Let them explain what's going on. Once they go through all that, tell them, you're fine. We will take care of you. In one way or another, we will take care of you. That doesn't mean you're going to do an investigation. That just means you're going to follow up. You will be there for them. To me, my phone interviews are pretty lengthy. It depends on what's going on in the home, but I'm more of a boots on ground guy. Before I do any of the background, like what Tanner does, I want to be in that home. I want to see what's going on, because like the questions on the mental health, the abuse, alcoholism, whatever, that'll be right in front of me. I don't need them to tell me. I want them to tell me, but Just like if you ever seen the show House, people lie.
Mhm.
People lie a lot, or they're just not aware of it. Everything you need to know about that case is going to happen in the home. And what I always suggest to people is if you are doing these interviews, do them during the day.
Mhm.
Do them during the day. So, obvious reasons, safety. And two, it's more relaxing. It's more like a home. It's a warmer tone. It's a warmer environment. People will be more tended to be relaxed and open with you. Make sure the family's there for me. And this is just the initial, by the way. The entire family has got to be there. Husband, wife, kids, everybody. They're in that home. Anybody who's affected has got to be in that home when you talk to them. Talk to them all together and then talk to them separate. Take at least, I always took 2 to 3 investigators with me. Always. So there was 3 to 4, including myself. And then once you start, you go through the process, and there is an actual checklist and there's an actual questionnaire form that I have written out. And it goes from everything, like Tanner said, the mental history, the any type of abuse, any deaths in the family recently, any friends that have passed away recently, any trauma, loss of employment, loss of this, loss of that, anything you can think of, go through it. Ask them what type of weather was going on, because that's going to do a couple of things. That's going to make them think. That's going to take
Mhm.
them off their story, make them think. And if it's legit, they will have an answer fairly quickly and then jump right back into what they're going for. And if it doesn't seem there's no connection there, there's probably some BS. There's more likely some
Yeah.
BS. And then what I usually do is I usually I split up the family. I'll have the husband show me, or the wife, depending on who has the most experience with it, have them lead me through, show me the hot spots, as we call them. Living room, bedroom, dining room, whatever. Wherever this activity is going on, I have them show me. My investigators will take charge of the other people. What have you experienced with this? And they're taking notes too. They have the same form I have. They're taking the notes. And then something that gets missed a lot, kids. Kids are your resource. I forget who, I think it was Gabriel Iglesias said that kids are little alcoholics. They will tell you everything. It doesn't matter. Talk to the children. Talk to them about anything. Mommy, daddy, usually pretty happy. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's great. You guys have fun. Yeah, great. Do you have any imaginary friends? That gets missed. Listen to them. Talk to them about their imaginary friends. Have a coloring book or some kind of crayons or something. Can you draw me a picture of your friend? I want to see your friend. Let me see what your friend looks like. Pay attention to the animals. I love the background that Tanner does, because I did the same thing. But I love being in that home. That home will tell you literally everything. There are no secrets. And as you're doing your baseline readings with your EMF, have a recorder going at all times. I wouldn't bring a spirit box. Probably not the best thing to do to start off with, or an SLS. Just something basic. Cameras, digital cameras, like I said, recorders, stuff like that. But as you're going through, make mental notes. Make mental notes of how they're acting, how you're feeling, how the team's feeling. What are the animals doing? Are the dogs freaking out? Are the cats acting weird? Then talk to them about that. Talk to them about everything. And I highly suggest to people, towards the end of that baseline interview, pull them separately and ask about the abuse side of it, the mental, physical, sexual, whatever it is. I know it's a tough subject, but it needs to be asked. That negative energy can manifest so many different things. And maybe it's just, I've seen it happen before. Maybe it's just a cry for help. There's some mental abuse going on in the home. They don't have anywhere to go, so they manifest a haunting. And tell them, you need to go. You need to go. You need to go seek, law enforcement. You need to go get help. You need to go see a psychiatrist, a therapist, somebody. You need to go get help. And talk to them separately and let them know we have an NDA. We are not going to sit here. We are not court mandated to say anything to anybody. So you don't have to worry about us calling the cops. I mean, if there's something really bad going on, we'll handle that. The cops will get called and let them take care of it. But for the most part, they just want someone to talk to if there's something like that going on. But yeah, that's me, and that's pre-investigation. And
Mhm.
I kind of do the same thing with Tanner with the journals. I tell him, especially now with phones, I tell him, do a digital diary. Something happens, something's going on, you're starting to get that feeling. Turn on that recorder. Tell me what you're feeling. Pretend we're talking on the phone, and then send that to me. I don't care if you send me 400 clips within the next week or two. I don't care. Send them, and I'll evaluate them. I'll listen to them. I'll, leave a notebook, write stuff down. I'll collect it at the investigation.
Mhm.
But I usually plan it out. I like the 2 weeks. 2 weeks for me is a good time frame too to plan out before the investigation.
Yeah, it gives you, some time to get some patterns too. Now I do something a little bit different. So I do that step, but it's after I get the notebook back.
Mhm.
And, I'm actually working on a notebook to send people that I can sell if people want it. But, we got a comment, asking if, I knew that, YouTube was offering courses. I do not plan to do a course through YouTube. I am building a course currently. I'm gonna launch it through Udemy first, but that's gonna be on my own platform on my website,
Yeah,
eventually, but Udemy first.
I saw Fedora asking that. I was just waiting.
Yep.
um,
But with that, so I do it just a little bit different. I'll go with like one other investigator. I do the same steps that you do. I get the
mhm.
baselines with EMF, baselines with temps, baselines with
I forgot
I do
Tim too. Yeah,
photos, all four corners of a room, so that I know where everything is and we have a good layout of the house. I'll do a diagram of the house, so that we can mark things when we have that representation there. It also helps me plan out where to put cameras. Um, and I don't get into the mental stuff and the abuse. I have a colleague, a couple of them actually, who are more friendly to the woo woo and the paranormal, but they are counselors, they are licensed therapists.
yeah,
And if I suspect that going on, I reach out to them and get their advice. And if I can, I bring them into it and let them handle that aspect of it.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
but the
that
big
I
thing,
don't think I really, not to cut you off, brother. That
no,
I
no,
don't
no, go
think
for it.
I covered that one. But no, if there is any type of abuse like that for me personally, it stops right there.
Mhm.
I don't push. I don't push. That's why
Yep.
I say, depending on the severity of what's going on, I either tell them, go, you need to go see a psychiatrist or a therapist, and I have a couple close by, no matter where I'm at. I'd have a list of them and I'd hand it to them just in case something like this pops up,
Mhm.
or if it's domestic or something like that, sexual. Cops. It's like
Yep.
local authorities. I'll go outside and I'll call the cops, explain what's going on somewhere where they can't hear me, and I'll let them know. Be like, can you guys show up? Say whatever. Here's the reports I got. If you guys want to investigate this, this is illegal activity. I'm reporting it to you. Here's what's going on. So that way, I don't want to
Yeah.
be.
When it comes to child abuse specifically in Tennessee, everyone is, oh, what is it called? There's mandatory reporting requirements for everyone. But that's one of the reasons, like when you interview children at a location, I do recommend talking to the children if the parents are open to it.
Mm,
One of the parents needs to be there with you when you're interviewing the child. They have to be. Now, I had a case where I was called in. We were doing this, and it was for the mother was experiencing a lot of stuff in the home, and there was something weird about the way the dad and the kids were acting when I was talking to her. So I split them up and started talking to the kids, and found out that the children and the dad were playing these really really cruel jokes on the mom, and were pranking her to make her think the house was crazy, and basically gaslighting her and then making her think she's nuts. So that ended that investigation because that was what was going on in the house.
yeah.
But yeah, this is all to set up for the vigil, and this is all to set up for things that are happening later. Now, when I do this part of the investigation, I'm there in person and we're starting. That's where I bring the paperwork, and that's where I bring the very first thing we do is we sit down. And I'm like, this is the release from liability. This is the permission to be on the property. This is our media release. Now, I am a writer and podcaster. This allows me to talk about this case and what we learn on the air. This allows me to put this in books. Would you like me? And on my waiver, my media waiver, I have a little box that says, yes, it's fine to release everything. I don't release the address for
Of
private
course.
residences.
Yeah.
I might say the state, but I don't even think I really say the city. And if I do, I change the city. So I
And
redact and change information there. Um,
if I can interject real quick, brother,
yeah,
I highly suggest folks never give out the address
yeah,
or even the town. You can.
yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with the state because if I say, "Oh, Pennsylvania, home in Pennsylvania," take your freaking pick. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? That's safe. But I'm not gonna sit there and use I would never, even if the client begs me to. No, I turn. We're getting ahead of this, but
Yep.
that's where at the end I give them the evidence and everything we collect. Let them do it what they will. If they want to
Mhm.
do it, by all means. But I do not. I do not, and I do not let any of my team. I don't even, like, if I have a boyfriend or girlfriend that's going out with us as a team, and their significant other wants to know where they're going, no address. The most I'll give them is the town,
Mhm.
and that's an if, or I'll say it's near something. And the reason
Yeah,
for that
we've got a
is because I don't want
responsibility.
them. Yeah, and I just don't want the significant other showing up, good or bad.
Mhm.
I don't want them showing up.
Yep.
So that's just me.
And this is another piece. People will ping these, like, especially if your content starts to get big or you start to, like, you really get a reputation. There's a thing where people will look at the photographs that you post or have in your books and stuff, and they'll pull those and they'll get on and they'll do a reverse image search,
Yep.
and they will dig to ping that address and make that public for people. There are people, they do it. It is their hobby. They go as deep into that as we go into ghost hunting.
Yep.
So I don't do any fronts of the homes. I don't do anything that can be identified. I'll do the inside, but if I notice that there's something like a house across the street that you can see through the window, someone will use that to ping that if they want it bad enough. So I'll make sure that's not in anything that goes public, from findings from that. But
Mhm.
the other piece of paper that I have is a what is it called? um, Information release. So this is basically giving me the authority to talk to neighbors, talk to people that have been in the neighborhood for a while to see if there's any stories about the house. It's also that background, that initial background that I did, where I identified former property owners. Well, the next piece of me leaving this house and getting set up for the investigation, we're going to go ahead and we're going to agree on a night to do the vigil right there.
Yeah.
We'll probably do a couple of options, and then I'll go back if I'm bringing a team in. I do it solo now, and I might bring a person in to help with me. But back when I had a team, I would sit down with the team and we would work on what's the best day to get this done, what works for everybody's schedules, and what's based on the information so far the best night to do it. While we're doing that, I'm going to the courthouse, and this is where I start to pull records. So I am going to start looking through archives, the microfiche, microfilm. Some places, some towns are going to have that in the library. Some places it's going to be at the one of the city buildings attached to the city hall. Some places are going to have it. Oh, where was that weird one? There was actually a records building in one town that's where they housed all the records, newspapers, and everything. And some newspapers, local newspapers, will house that internally, and you can go look at it. But I'm going to sit and I'm going to spend those hours and days going through that to pull up what I can find and what might not have been on the internet about the property. I'm going to go to the courthouse and see if there's anything. Um, that I can find there. And usually I ask a clerk to do this, to do a record search based on the address, to do a record search based on the people that are there. And then I'm going to pull the property tax records and the property records, everything that I can find that has a name on it for someone that was attached to, owned, or lived in that house. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to start pulling phone numbers, and I'm going to start doing social media mining to locate these people and ask them questions. And then when I reach out, if I have permission from the property owner, hi, my name's Tanner. I host a podcast called Ghost Hunter Advice, which now I would probably say I host a podcast called Truly Odd. We're looking at maybe featuring this, or I'm writing a book about this, or depending on like what I find out about this person. Hey, I was brought in to help them. Can you tell me, did you ever experience anything weird in the house? Well, I don't know. This is all confidential. This isn't going to go out anywhere. You are not going to be identified. And there's not really a way this is going to get back to you. I just need to know to help them. Every once in a while, you'll find people that will open up to you,
Hmm.
and you'll have this amazing piece of evidence that not a lot of teams get. You'll have a person that lived in that house 20, 30, 50 years ago that has never met this family and never met these people. And they're going to say they experienced the exact same thing that the people in the house did. And that's where you know, okay, we probably have something here.
Yep.
And that's stronger piece of evidence than any EVP or video. You know, it doesn't play well when we're doing the entertainment stuff, but from a research and investigative standpoint, that's like the best piece of evidence you can get, because they don't know each other. They've never spoken. There's nothing connecting them except 20 years ago, this guy lived at the same address.
And you want a case of validation?
Mhm.
And that's something I'm like you said about, going to the courthouse and going to records. Folks, a lot of that is, I don't know if it's everywhere, but I know here in Pennsylvania, a lot of that's public records.
Mhm.
You can get it, and most of it should be pretty free.
Yeah, some places have started charging for it. There's one place, I wanna say it's Nashville, I'm not sure, but it's one of the cities around here, I have to pay annually for access.
mm, there's something else that I do that I don't know if you've done, but I look at the geological
Yeah.
surveys.
Mhm.
I look at those because you never know. I mean, that home could be on a limestone slab, or there
Mhm.
could be a water table
Yep.
underneath, that could be causing stuff, or even just a river, underground river. I always like to know what is underneath. Then I'm not talking about the basement. I'm talking the rocks
Mhm.
and stuff. I always love to know what's going on, and in doing so, you might even run into any type of old cemeteries. Like here in PA, everybody knows Gettysburg for the
Mhm.
Civil War. They never always had time to create a cemetery, so they just buried the dead wherever they could do it. And if Civil War passed right through, a battle went right through, possible. There's always possibility. So know your geological side of it as well. But definitely a hell of a resource. Definitely a hell of a resource. And just to relate, if anybody just popped in, this is prior to the actual investigation itself. We haven't even touched the investigation side of it yet. So there is a lot of work that goes into client-based teams, as I like to call them.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, this is all part of the investigation, and this is, like, one of the things that kinda, grates me a little bit. What a lot of us call the investigation is just a piece of the investigation called the vigil,
Yep,
and that's a term that's kinda gotten lost over time because of television, basically.
not going there. Not going there. We're not going to
Yeah.
push that button. But no, and you're 100% right. Like the investigation is just a minute piece of this whole case.
Mhm.
Um, Now, the only thing I'll say is for me, when I had the client sign all the documents, the releases, liability, insurance, stuff like this, I did that at the very end of the initial interview, the initial baseline walkthrough. And the reason why I do it then and there is because I know for a fact once they sign, they're probably not backing out.
Mhm.
If I feel like an investigation is warranted, I'd let them know. Be like, look, there's a good possibility you have something here. You're not in any danger. I don't feel like you're in any danger. If I did, I would suggest to them to just back out of the house for a week or two, go to a family, and still take notes, still do recordings just in case it's attached. But just leave it. Just leave it. If they're in any type of danger, like if we're talking poltergeist or demonic stuff like that, anything they're malicious intent, you don't want your clients getting hurt, obviously. But don't scare them. Never scare them. Reassure them that it'll be taken care of. But no, I do it right at the end of the interview because I know if they're willing to sign the NDA, the media disclosure, all this and that, the insurance forms, they're not going anywhere.
Mhm.
I have that investigation, and it's even the right to investigate, the permission to be there, basically your permission slip. So either way, I'm showing up.
Mhm.
I'm showing up that night because there's two reasons for that. Number one, if there is any type of mental abuse or anything like that going on, they're going to try everything they can to cancel it. The other thing is too is with some spirits, believe it or not, they will put doubt. They will do what they can to try to cancel. They want to be, if anything is malicious in that house, they want to stay there. And I'm not saying it demonic. I'm saying a malicious, intelligent spirit. They're gonna try to stay where they're at. They're gonna try to keep their foothold. So they're gonna do whatever they can, including staying quiet to not have us come in because we are a threat. So if I have all that documentation signed, I'm showing up. Sorry, not sorry. I'm showing up. And I tell them this. I do not make plans. If you're sick, don't care. I've had clients sleep. Like they're literally in bed. We can hear them snoring from down in the living room. I don't care. We're there. We're going to investigate. We will get to
Mhm.
the bottom of this because they obviously approached us. Um, so Tanner, we could either keep going with this because believe it or not, we're about halfway.
Mhm.
Do we want to continue this, or do we want to do a part 2? I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, we're already at 7. Let's go ahead and we said we're going start to finish. Let's go ahead and knock it out. We'll say hard stop at 8, and if we need a part 2 at that, does that
Sounds good, brother. Sounds good.
sound good? Yeah.
So after the baseline, for me, what I end up doing is I set up, and I feel like you do the same. I set up a date and a time for the investigation.
Mhm.
I set up that time. That's when I start my research. I start going through, going to the courthouse, Hall of Records, all this other great stuff. That next week or two, that's what I'm doing. I obviously split it up with the team. Let the team help out. I have a historian on my team, stuff like that. But I also set up and immediately, I don't even leave the property. I actually send a message out to my team, client meeting, this date, this time, be there, so that way they can schedule it out. One thing we missed that I do, and you and I have spoken about this before I even talk to I make the initial contact, I show up. I show up to the house a couple days in advance. I drive around the block a couple of times. I check out the surrounding area a couple of times just to kind of get a feel for the area or whatnot. But I also sit there and I listen. I sit maybe not across the street, but down the street a little bit. And I just sit and listen. Do I hear dogs? Do I hear kids? Do I hear screaming? What am I witnessing? How many cops are going by? How many cars are going by? Is it a busy highway? How many people are walking? I pay attention to all this, and it's good to kind of get that, because you can, if there's a bunch of kids and you hear children screaming during the investigation, or you hear dogs barking, it's not a Wendigo, it's the neighbor's dog just being a dick. And always look for stuff like that. And I will do that before I even show up for the baseline. I do that before the investigation. I do that in between the investigation and the baseline. I'm always constantly on watch, and I'm being very vigilant, seeing what the neighbors are up to. If I see a neighbor, they ask me what I'm doing. Hey, well, I'm just hanging out, just taking in the sights, just kind of relaxing for a minute. It seems like a quiet neighborhood. Oh, well, yeah, it is, except for those fuckers they ratted them out. Neighbors are ratted people out all the time. And I like what Tanner said. He gets permission to go talk to the neighbors and stuff. That's good. I like a more laid back approach.
Hey, the information you get it was the same thing in PI work. Like, I would have my ways of getting information. Other people would have their ways of getting information. I'd pretext a lot. Me and this one guy we were on a case and we were looking for this dude, and he was running. He owed a bunch of people. He was running from debtors, and we were looking at him for a fraud case, and nobody could find him. So it was me and this other investigator, and we made a game out of who could do the most ridiculous pretext and still get information and find this guy first. I won.
You know, have some fun with that. I think I might be able to give you a run for your money. So anyway, so that was all pre-investigation stuff. So the night of the investigation, let's talk about that. Tanner, how did, for you and your team, it's the night of the investigation. Let's say you've got 6 hours prior.
Yeah. So now it's a little different. So I'll either go myself, just by myself, or I'll call in another team to actually do this part while I'm doing everything else. So I might not show up for that investigation night. The team, whatever team I bring in to do will. Now, back when I ran a team and I was out doing this more, I would make sure the batteries, like, this is equipment check. So 6 hours before the investigation or the day leading into the investigation, I am going through the batteries. I am double checking everything, which they should have been checked the day before too. I'm making sure time and date stamps on cameras are set. I'm making sure all the batteries are good. I'm making sure that I have a ton of extra batteries. Everything's loaded up and it is ready to roll out when it's time to roll out. And then I'm going back over the case file. I'm looking for, where do we need to set stuff? And on the little floor plan that I'd drawn out, I've already got places set up where I think cameras are going to need to go, where the best place to put at the time DVR, now it's an NVR. And where to set those cameras. I do say I like the NVRs better. They are way easier to work with than those old school DVR systems. Way easier.
A little bit.
Yeah. And the GoPros, who's going to be doing what, who's showing up for the investigation. Now, I don't take 9 investigators. I take 4. Usually, like, when you're doing this work, you're not getting called into these like 3-story, 4,000 square foot McMansions, or these historic properties that are proper mansions that have various wings and things. So I would take generally 3 or 4 investigators. If it was a larger house, like 4 or 5,000 square feet, I'd take maybe 6. And then we would set up, some of us would be outside. Usually I'd do 2-man teams, similar to what you do, where we rotate, somebody's inside, somebody's outside, and we would check the property. Later on in my process, the team would pack up and go, and I would stay myself, or me and one other investigator would stay in the house for the entire night. And let's get the investigation done. Let's leave the cameras up, but let's let the night go the way that it usually does. And I'll stay there and I'll experience what they experience. And I might do that for 2 or 3 nights in a row and just stay in the house to see, like, when people aren't walking around stirring things up, what is it actually like here? Because you can debunk some of the stuff that way. But we would go in, we would set up based on the plan. If something from the plan didn't work out and I didn't realize that a camera was going to be blocked in a location, we would move that. I would set up a 4-camera DVR system. I had 3 camcorders and some GoPros. So we would set up, depending on the size of the location, we would set up about 6 to 8 cameras and have at least 1 camera walking around with us to document. Now, here's the important thing with cameras. Yes, you might get some stuff. I hardly got, maybe once or twice, I got something notable on a camera, but those are there for liability purposes. Those are there to make sure every square foot of that house, if I can get it covered, is covered. So if there's somebody's like, oh, I'm missing some silverware or jewelry or something, where are the valuables in the house? I'm making sure there's a damn camera pointed in that direction. So if something happens, and maybe I made a mistake when I was recruiting for my team, and something happens, it's there on camera. It's covering my butt. I would set up where I was going to leave the static recorders. So the voice recorders that I was going to put up in, if we have a room that's supposed to be having a lot of information, I'll just turn a recorder on, leave it in that room to run. I think at the time, the max recording I had at like the best resolution was about 4 hours. So I would make a note so that I would switch those out. And I had a ton of little voice recorders that I would put in for that. And then it was just staying in the house. We would pick the rooms that had the activity. We do our EVP sessions. We do, this is the part where you see on TV where we're sitting around talking to ourselves in the dark. We hear a bump. We hear a noise that matches something that's in the report. We check it out. It's pipes. We check it out. It's a tree branch. It's super close to the house. We check it out. We see a 6-foot tall horned demon standing in a corner, and we're like, we knew it. And yeah,
I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
See, my pre-investigation is a little similar. Like, obviously, I have an equipment manager. Well, I had an equipment manager, so they were in charge of everything, all the equipment, batteries, everything else. So 6 hours prior to the start time, so if, say, 8 o'clock, we were supposed to be at the residence 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My team's meeting up at headquarters or wherever, and we're going over the case file. Obviously, there's some people who don't like a lot of detail, so you admit that. You kiss, it's still there, but you just don't say it. Children seeing a figure, don't say male or female. Don't say how old, just a figure. Hearing footsteps in the upper levels of the home. Okay, hallway, bedroom, where? Don't worry about it. Give them the details, give them what they need to know, but leave out specifics, because that's going to validate your client. That's going to validate the experiences of your team. So I leave that out. That's all I do. After that, we usually eat. I mean, I'm a big boy. I love food. So we usually eat. I will let you all know right now, if you want to take your team to somewhere to eat before the investigation experience, stay the away from buffets.
Yeah, 100%. Somebody's gonna get sick. No spicy stuff, no curry.
Well,
Pizza's pushing it, but pizza works. Yeah, we did something similar with Mystique. I talked to people like it was a phone call. We would get on a big conference call. We'd go over the case. I didn't withhold the male female stuff. I just told people if you see something and you're in there with your partner, um, I want you to say, "Hey, do you see that?" When you guys say, "Yeah," don't tell each other what it is. I want you to write it down, radio me, or text me if you're not doing K2 stuff and EVP stuff and you have your cell phones turned on. Text me, and come out and we'll give me those pieces of paper and I'll see if that matches up.
yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, no, I would highly suggest stay away from, like I said, buffets. I made that mistake several times. But it was
Nothing
so
will like lose faith faster than blowing up somebody's toilet in an investigation.
Well, I'd just say it's a demon. But then what we usually do is we would drive towards the location. Notice I said towards, not to. Reason for that, I usually stop about a mile and a half away at a gas station, or a convenience store, grocery store, whatever, for the final equipment check. Batteries, SD cards, power supplies before Scott says anything. I forgot a power supply for the DVR system.
Oh, that sucks.
I had to run back. But yeah, you double check everything. Flashlights. Make sure you have your notebooks. Make sure you have your pens. Make sure you have stuff. Hence the reason why I'm stopping at a convenience store or like a Walmart or something to check that, because guess what's inside? Everything you might need. But we go over all that stuff and we let them know and tell the investigators, all right, guys, as soon as the door's shut, it's game time. No more BS, no more joking. Let's get focused. And then we would drive around the block a couple of times, check out the area, had the windows down, let the investigators get a feel for the area. Then we'd show up to the house, and it looked like something out of a really bad horror movie. But we would all like be across the street going, how do we feel tonight? Like 9 of us lined up or 10 of us lined up, just right on the sidewalk, just looking. It was weird. But then I would approach myself and whoever I brought with during the baseline. We'd walk up, say hi, how's everything going tonight? And then I'd let them know this is where I would like to set up our base camp. And what that's going to be is our center point of operation. And 99% of the time, folks, I had it outside. Preferably in the backyard. I mean, we had a little canopy set up and we had a nice little thing. Base log, DVR, all that stuff, extra equipment, all that was at base. And just like Tanner, I'd have it in my mind where I'm placing all my cameras. Where's all my audio going? What kind of trigger objects am I going to bring? And again, this is my equipment manager's job. I would say to the equipment manager, this is what I need from you. Take these 2 people, go. Obviously, I don't need a treasurer at base camp. Just look, they can go do equipment. And we share the load. Meanwhile, I'm explaining to the client what I'm doing, what the team's doing, and I walk them through. I do not let them blind of anything because this is their home. They need to know what's going on. Now, the reason why I love a 9-person group is just like Tanner said before, I split them up. I have team 1, team 2, and team 3. That would be all spoken about during the team meeting before we even showed up. Everybody knew exactly what team they were on, what role they were going to play. So that way there's no questions when base camp when setup's done. When setup's done, boom, go, go, go. I'd have 1 team investigating, 1 team at base, and 1 team on break. And that was even for the first round. And the break team would be across the street or wherever they would hang out at. Team at base, team inside investigating. And we would rotate every hour and a half, depending on what's going on. And the reason for that is you're keeping fresh your investigators. Your investigators are rested. They're ready to go. Even in late at night, that hour, they could take a half-hour nap on break. They could get something to eat. They could do whatever. And our base log would record literally everything. We'd have everything written down. Someone, crapped themselves. A dog was barking. Car drove by. Train was there. Helicopter. Someone, burped. I don't know. Someone sneezed. Everything was documented. Everything. Even going to their bathroom. If somebody at base camp had to go to the restroom, hey, team, whatever, team 2, this is team 3. I have one investigator coming in to use restroom. So that way they know somebody's coming in. They don't hear a door open and they all turn around with flashlights and blind people or freak out, get that dude run syndrome. Never too much information. Never too much information. And just like you, have them validate everything, write everything down. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, what was I doing? Well, as a founder, I'm a support role. That was my mindset. I'm bringing in batteries, bringing in water, paying attention to what's going on all aspects, because even the break team could have something going on. And I'm paying attention to my client. Are they getting nervous? Are we trying to discover? Are we just getting close to discovering something that they're trying to hide from us? Are they relaxed? Are they happy? Are they settled? Or whatever. I'm paying attention to everything all at once on what's going on, and I'm there for a support role. That was my job. Did I get to investigate all the homes like I wanted to? Yes, actually, because I put my nose in where I probably shouldn't a couple of times walking during an EVP session. Hey, that was my right. I'm the founder. I was allowed to do that. But I always made myself readily available. That was my goal and my job. That's why I like the bigger teams. And the other reason why I used 3-man teams instead of 2, validation. There's no power of suggestion. 2 people to me was too much of a liability. It's just too much. If one person saw it, another person didn't, but somebody else did, you can validate off of each other. Or if all 3 of them heard something, you may get 3 variations, but there's an underlying context. I saw a male, I saw a female, I saw a kid. Doesn't matter. You saw something. So that means that's where we're going to focus on. So, yeah, we go through that by like 6 to 8 hours of all this fun bullshit. Usually 2 or 3 rounds, but it was a long night. It was a very long night. And at the very end, depending on what the client wanted, we'd either pray with them, depending on their denomination, we'd pray with them. I don't want to say a smudge, but I'd walk through with like lavender enriched sage. And I'm sitting there just walking through the home, just praying for positivity, whatever. And I do what I can to help them out. I'm not saying an exorcist, I'm not doing an exorcism, but I do a blessing of the home. And then the very last thing I do, if the owner is comfortable with it, I have them take ownership of their home. Because obviously it's frustrating. It has to be, especially if they don't study our field. They feel like they don't have control. I give them control back. I make them take control back. I tell them, I want you to say whatever you want to say to this individual that's here in your home. Pretend they're right in front of you. What do you want to tell them? And either it's get them out, or listen, if you're going to be here, just knock it off, or whatever. Take control. Let the owners know that it's their home. And sometimes that's what they need. Even if there's nothing going on, if you haven't caught a piece of evidence all night long, still do that. Because that is, to me, mental wellness to these clients. And it helps. It really does. Anyway.
Yeah, no. And coming off the vigil, like before we start reviewing, I know this part's going to be different than the way you do it. So I recommend that if it's a negative thing, which generally if I'm going into a case now, there's going to have to be a reason for me to go in. I don't just go out there and investigate to investigate anymore. It's going to have to be something either for a project that I'm working on, or there has to be a reason that I'm drawn out there. There's a child who's getting scratched. There's some negative stuff. So if it's a negative investigation, I'm going to tell them, hey, all right, so there's a few things that we think might happen and might cause this. We recommend that everybody we work with, if you're not seeing a counselor or somebody that you can talk to, we do recommend that you just go ahead and do that. We recommend if you're not taking care of yourself as far as physically, you don't have to go to a gym, but start getting outside more and start, putting more positivity into your life. Start making your life and making yourself move in a direction that you want to go. So you're not putting off as much negative energy. And if there is something here, it's not going to be feeding on that. You're going to starve it out. You're going to feel better. There was one that needed intervention, but I think most things were taken care of just by that approach. People taking care of themselves, strengthening family bonds, putting more positivity in their homes, and either one starving out an entity, or if this is a reflection of our mood, if it's not a separate entity and we're just kind of getting back what we're projecting, you start getting positive stuff back. So we saw either activity stop altogether, or we
Yeah.
saw activity stop being negative and start being more of a positive or mundane experience for the people there in the house from that
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
So I recommend that. And then we start doing review. This is where it's going to be different because I do all of my team's review. I don't want anybody else looking at it. I trust my eyeballs. I know what I'm looking for. John, John originally started with me doing this and has been doing it as long as I have. I trust him. But I want to review everything. I'm going to start with audio, and I sit and I listen to all of the audio recordings. I break it up. I have a little timer, same thing that I do when I write. I set a timer and I'm like, I'm listening to 30 minutes of audio. Usually there's nothing. Sometimes something pops up.
Yeah.
And I do it in WavePad. At the time, back then, I did it in Audacity. But I would go through, and when I'd see something, I was able to amplify it. I was able to clean it up. I was able to take background hiss out. I was able to do spectral analysis on the sound itself to see where it was at, and see if it was just static and pareidolia, or if there was a clear cadence to it. And okay, this is a speech pattern. If it was not a class A, class 1, whatever you want to call it, EVP, where like no, there's nothing, get the fuck out. I'm like, oh, that's an EVP. I know what that guy is saying. That's the only thing that I would really put forth as evidence. They're very, very, very rare. Anything else that was, if it was obviously a voice, I would save it. And if it's that stuff that we hear on most websites, most YouTube channels, and like most TikTok accounts, where like maybe there's a voice, maybe somebody was humming in the background, or maybe the wind blew across the mic, I don't count those.
Yeah.
And I'll go through the audio, and then I'll go through the video. And the video takes for freaking ever because we have to go through. And I know some people will use a large screen and they'll watch all of their cameras from the NVR or DVR at the same time. I go through each individual camera in real time, or I slow it down.
I need to slow down.
It sucks. I do it in spots. Like if I'm going through and there is something, I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to go frame by frame, and I'm going to pull it off.
Of course, yeah.
And see if I can. And there's a couple of different ways that I'll review that. Same way that I would a photo. I'll put it into an editing software or something on my computer so that I can look at the negative, so I can manipulate the brightness and mess with the picture a little bit to bring it out. And sometimes it's a coat rack, sometimes it's a shadow, sometimes there's a guy standing there that it wouldn't see. And negative, if you look at the negative view, that tends to really bring stuff out on photos.
Oh, I love looking at photo negatives.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. See, we all love the evidence. We all do. We love all hearing the Class A EVPs, seeing the apparitions, and all that great stuff. To get it though, it's a pain in the ass.
2 to 4 weeks of review, dude. 2 to 4 weeks of review if you're doing it yourself.
So no, you're good, brother. So here was my rule, and this was in the contract. I made sure of this. I hate evidence review for 2 reasons. 1, I hate my own voice, and 2, I get shiny syndrome too freaking easily. So I was sitting here going, squirrel, and I'm gone. You know what I mean? So in the contract, it was if you investigated, you're doing the evidence review. You're helping out with it. Now, here's where, for me, it became mundane and tedious. I had a rule of 3 for every piece of evidence, every camera, every digital recorder. You watch it 3 times, or you listen to it 3 times. So let's go off of one recorder. If you're there for an 8-hour investigation, that's 24 hours of audio that you are listening to minimum. Hear me out. Minimum 24 hours. That's why it takes so freaking long. And we would listen to it in real time. We would go back, and if there's something that happened, we'd write it down, cut it out, whatever, put it on Audacity. See, I liked listening to my stuff raw first.
Mhm.
I didn't run it through a WayPad. I didn't run it through Audacity. We'd listen to it raw, and we'd listen and we'd write notes, take notes down, and then we would upload it and go to those clips. And then we listen to it a second time, and then we do the same thing, go back and put anything else we might find. And then the third time is the final cleanup. You go through it again and you're cleaning it up, making sure you got everything out of it. The videos were the same way. And it would take about 2 to 3 weeks. Now, in the meantime, clients not just sitting there in limbo.
Mhm.
Every day or every couple days, I'd follow up with them. I'd see how it's going, make sure everything's all right, family's doing good, anything happened since then, because sometimes after the investigation, something might pop up that might be that missing piece that you need for the investigation. And it's just good to double check and to make sure. And it builds a lot of credibility for you as well as a professional. Use that term loose. I hate saying there's professionals in our field. I really do.
Well,
But
experts. I don't like saying expert. Like
experts,
if you are acting as a professional, and technically the definition is if you're making money from what you're doing. So hey, if your channel has monetized, if your podcast has monetized, and you're making money from this, yeah, by definition you're a professional.
fair
But there's
enough.
no experts because we don't know what's going on.
No, hell no.
Mhm.
To me, it's double-edged sword. But anyway, but everyone's there. The team's there, and I even take help. If other investigators want to help. Which, FYI, by the way, folks, I don't know if you know this, Tanner. If you've heard me say this, ghost fart.
Huh.
I have a class had a class A. I don't. I wish I still had it. Class A EVP of a fart. Now, the reason why I say it's a ghost fart, you know me pretty well, brother. My team and I were one and the same pretty much. If somebody shit themselves during an investigation, we're laughing. We are bringing squeegees out. We're bringing sponges out. We're taking a hose out. You know, it is terrible. There's a recording. Somebody was asking, one of my investigators said, "Can you give us a sign of your presence here?" And there's about 10 seconds of silence. And then you hear it. This god awful Taco Bell Chinese food mixture fart that sounds like a demon just going nuts. But there was no response. Nobody acted. Nobody reacted. And it was right there. So we're all a bunch of kids. No one reacted to it. It was a ghost fart. So yeah. But no, your evidence review is extremely important. As mundane and as tedious as it is to me, I think, the most important part of the investigation. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
The review, yeah, I mean, that's where you're really validating what you've seen. These days, I go in more for personal experience. So like the investigation is me being at that house sometimes for like several days and
Yeah.
being like, okay, I'm seeing this shadow moving around. Let's try to figure this out. Um, if you are bringing someone in to do a cleansing from a large religious organization, there's going to have to be some sort of evidence that is empirical.
Yeah.
If you are bringing in a solution for them, or there's a person there in the household who does not believe at all, then that empirical evidence is going to go a long way to convincing them to bring in help if that is warranted, or to do the things that are necessary to, like Matt was saying, for the family to band together to take back the home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that evidence, it's not what they're paying because they're not paying, but
They shouldn't be.
they should. Well, yeah, yeah. But they brought you in to get answers, and in getting this evidence and putting this together for them, EVPs, videos, photos, and giving them something tangible to hold on to, that is what makes them feel like they're not crazy. You're going to make them feel better by being there and believing them and listening to them, but them having something to hold on to that they can say, "Oh my God, this is real," is going to change things, and it's going to change how things go after that investigation, depending on what the next steps are, depending on the activity there. So yes, long-winded way of saying it is very, very important.
Long-winded, but absolutely true. And honestly, whether you find something or you don't, doesn't matter. They need that closure in one way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
No. I was like, wait, I saw you pop in. I was going
That's
to say
me.
hi to you.
We're going through a lot of stuff, so we're not able to really pull the comments up like we usually do. So I just wanted to throw some stuff out there. So replying to some people.
Throw my ass off. But no, 100%. And I've saved marriages. I've brought families back together. You know, there's been a lot of amazing outcomes, and whether there's evidence or not. And to be honest with you, for those who actually absolutely love the paranormal, you bring them solid evidence like that, it's a hell of a Halloween time for them and a hell of a Christmas gift. Hey, mom, remember what I said about this? Yeah, bitch. So let's talk about following up with clients and finally closing out the case for you.
Yeah.
How did that look for you after evidence
Let me
review?
screen share real quick. I'm going
Yeah,
to
go
pull
ahead.
up something. This is the case, the reporting system. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up. Screen share. Window. There it is. All right. So organizing notes and getting everything together. This is called the plan. I still need to get the developer on my podcast. This is just an awesome system. So this is going to have everything from the contact and location information. So directions to the property. I like to have that in there just so that the property is documented and there's no question about it. Sometimes street numbers change, sometimes street addresses change. So having that in there is a great way. Also knowing whether the property owner is an owner or a renter. So having the phone number, contact information, and then like all of the prelim stuff is in there.
Before you go to
Location
the
history.
Before you go to location, brother, don't mean to cut you off. I really like what you're doing right in the middle there. And that's something that I think we missed in the original where it says rental or resident and rental. I'm going to let you folks know right now, and I highly, highly, highly suggest this. If the property is rented, do not just get the renter's agreement to be there. Talk to the landlord. Get the landlord involved. You need to have that permission. That's going to save you so much of a headache. Just, I didn't mean to interject, but that's something I think we missed in the beginning.
No, yeah, and that's an important thing because the property owner is, well, it depends. It's state by state, so know your state laws. Here in Tennessee, the renter, the occupant of the residence, can invite people in to do stuff like this.
Yes.
They do have authority to sign for that. It is always better to get the property owner involved if you can.
Yes, to me personally, like I said, I always do. I always get the landlord, and I even ask the people, did you tell your landlord? Because if something's going on, typically they'll go to the more natural side of it. And I don't want to say, I don't mean to sound, obscene with that one, but they'll call their landlord first, is what I'm saying. They'll try to get something that, like if they hear footsteps, can you guys, can they come check out this or check that out? They'll contact their landlord first on what's going on. So I like to get the landlord's permission because to me, it's respect.
Yeah. And you never know, like in a lot of cases, I'm going to end up talking to them anyway to see if I can get tenants or get them to reach out to tenants to get, information on it. They can get in a little trouble because that is confidential information. Sometimes they give it to you, sometimes they won't. But like you have the location history in here. It's going to have everything that you found, citing your sources and everything. Witness statements and reports. So this is where you're going to be able to add that detail of the witness statements. Investigation log. So this is where you're going to put the details of the actual investigation in. And then personal experiences. So your team members have a personal experience or you have a personal experience on the property, that's going to go in here. Physical evidence. So this is going to have your photos, your EVPs, your video clips, and any images or anything. And it's going to organize it inside here and keep it with the case file. It's also going to give you a log. So investigation, this is the summation and conclusions. Basically, this is where you're going to talk about the evidence that you've collected. You're going to move on to the recommendations section, and this is where you're going to tell them what you recommend the next step being. And then it's got the signature places. This is where you can put your letterhead in, and this is where you can put the cover letter together. When you export this, it's going to make a Word document for you. You're going to print that off, and that's the report that you're giving to the client along with the evidence files that you have for them.
I
So
like that.
closing this out, I'm going to get that report ready for them, so we have that written report. I'm going to put together the evidence packages as attachments. We're going to talk. We're going to get well, I used to do a CD. Now I'll Dropbox the video over to them, or I'll find a way to get the video over there. Tanner Banks, thanks for tuning in, bro. So, and then we're going to go and we're going to meet. We're going to sit down, me, one other investigator, or me and the individuals. We might do it at the house. If there's a lot of activity and it's negative, we'll probably do it at a third location.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through and we're going to show them everything. We're going to show them they'll listen to the EVPs, studio headphones. We'll listen to the EVPs. We're going to go through and watch the video and get their reactions to it. I'm not going to tell them what's on that. I'm going to wait and see if they hear the EVP, if they validate what we think it's saying, if they validate what's on the camera, if they validate what's in the photos, and then we're going to sit and go through the report. I'm going to pull up that background. I'm probably going to attach copies of the public records or the newspaper articles or things that I found about the property. That's going to be included in the history part of the investigation report, and we're going to walk through it. And when we're done, I'm going to get their opinion. So how do you feel? Sometimes people feel super threatened and scared at the end of the investigation. They're not scared anymore. They've accepted it. Okay, this is not something crazy demonic. This is not something that's trying to hurt me. This is something that's there in the house. Well, great. No, I'm glad you feel comfortable. You're going to, I think we're going to be as positive as we can. We're going to live with it. Or, so we got some really interesting stuff. What I would like to do is study this a bit further. And this is where we open ourselves up to doing further investigations and getting access to property. There's another form. And what this is it's just a form giving me, authority to continue to investigate, even though they're satisfied. We have an opportunity to test EVPs. We have an opportunity to test what's going on there at the house and go back and try to recreate things if we can debunk it, or to get more information to find out, okay, let's try going in and using different shutter speeds. Let's try going in with, I've got a ton of microphones from podcasting. Let's go in with a shotgun mic and attach it to another recorder, or let's go in with an H4 and attach 4 different types of microphones to see what's going to get the best results with EVPs. And let's test equipment. Let's bring in some of that new crap from Ghost Stop. Crap. It's not crap. It's really good stuff. Let's bring in some of that new equipment from Ghost Stop and see what works best for communicating here. So this is where you start to experiment. This is where the research comes in. This is where the real focus of ghost hunting is, when we find and we gain access to a property that we can go back to multiple times to investigate. And that's how I try to close out cases. Now, the other thing is if it's negative, okay, well, what's your faith? Do you have a faith? Let's get somebody in to do a blessing and a cleansing, see if that works. And maybe we do a follow-up investigation to see if something's there. Generally, I don't recommend doing that because I don't want to invite anything else back in if you've kicked it out.
True.
But I stay in contact to see if activity has stopped, and we try to help them find a solution to get rid of it if they want to get rid of it, live with it if they want to live with it, and give us access again to do more experimentation if they're okay with that.
Fair enough. See, mine's a little similar, but there is some differences. So after the evidence review, I collect everything up, bring all the paperwork, bring the case file. I would say 99% of the time, I would bring back the original group that came with me for the baseline. I like to keep that feeling together to where it's like it's comfortable, it's familiar, puts clients at ease. Because if I start bringing like new people in, they might get a little freaked out. Well, who's this new guy? But just reassure them. And the number one thing I want to let you all know is show them everything. Full disclosure. Obviously not the silence. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear static. But go through. And when you're going through your evidence, whether it's a full-bodied apparition, you show them an orb, I will come hunt you down. But you show them all the evidence. But I want you to remember one thing. when you're showing them this, do not react. You want to stay as monotone as possible. I'm not saying like serious stern. No, just like it's every day. It happens every day. That's what you want to stay. No matter if it's class A or whatever. Your camera picks up and Casper does a selfie. It happens every day. That's how you want to react, because you're going to watch their reactions. Because either the light's going to click on and be like, that's exactly what we're hearing, or that's grandma, or that's Aunt Sally, or that's the uncle, or wait, I hear my cat. My cat passed away 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? That's what you want to look at. And you want to stay as relaxed as possible. And 100% what Tanner says, if something needs to be done afterwards, do it. Follow up. Make sure you are following up. I see a lot of teams out there failing because they do not follow up with their clients. They show them the evidence and they're like, bye, have fun. Good luck. No, your case is not done until you follow up. Make sure they're happy. Make sure they're comfortable. Did they move? Did they get the divorce? Did they come back together? Did they get a new animal? Whatever. You always have to follow up. And now I like keeping everything in a 2-week time frame, so I give them the 2 weeks. And I honestly, depending on what's there, if it's one of the relatives that's just hanging out, having some fun, just picking on them, I teach them how to do an EVP session. Just something very simple. Here, take your phone out, sit down and just talk. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like you're talking to yourself, and then listen back. Or, you feel like somebody's watching you, take a picture. And I teach them little stuff like that to kind of, I know a lot of investigators are like, oh, you shouldn't get them. You should. Because think of it this way. We all started somewhere, right? We may bring some new people into our field. I've had clients ask to come on my team, which that was fun. Literally had this one investigator. She was a previous client of mine. I took her to, I think it was her first or second client investigation. We were doing the baselines, and the client was telling us all about it. And my investigator goes, that shit happened at my place. Oh, it's fun. It's like, God damn it. Like, stop it. But tell them everything, show them everything. And then what I like to do at the very end, the way I close out my case, I take the reports from my investigators, the written reports, everything from the case file. I reread over everything. I look at all the evidence that we captured, and I write my own report up. What I feel, how I felt about it. How was the client reaction? How was this? How was that? I write my own spin on it. And then once that's done and I sign it, that case is done, unless we get a call for it. But that case to me is not closed until I'm satisfied with it. Now, I want you guys to hear that the last sentence I just said. As a founder, I want you to hear this. I am not satisfied. It is not closed until I am satisfied. When I am happy with that case being done, it's done. And we move on. There are so many founders, lead investigators, whatever you want to call yourselves, that leave the what ifs. Do not do that. Like Tanner said, go back. Go back a couple of times. Figure it out. See if you can recreate things. See if you can figure stuff out. It's okay to go back 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Doesn't matter. But do not close that case out until you are satisfied with it. That was
100%.
That was fun, brother. I'm glad we did this. And I just want to let you folks know, and I know Tanner will say this too, this is just for one case. A hypothetical one case. This isn't like over the course of how many. No, this is per case. We would do all this stuff. Is it a lot of work? Yes. We've gone almost 2 freaking hours. Yes, it's a lot. But it's worth every minute. It is worth every minute. It is worth every headache. It is a lot of dedication. It is a lot of time. But most importantly, it's very serious. From someone like Casper to Beelzebub, it's very serious. We take this very seriously, and you should too, because again, we're only there for a couple of hours. These clients live there. Our actions and reactions will either help or hurt them. So keep that in mind. Keep all that in mind. And I do want to let you guys know, if you are watching this, if you stayed with us the entire time, God bless you. But if you have any further questions or whatnot, head over to Tanner's side, to Ghost Hunter Device. Send him questions. Send him everything and anything you want. Listen to his podcast. He's a hell of a source for this, and it's a lot of fun listening to him. So
Appreciate that.
yeah, no worries.
And I'm dropping the link for the plan in the comments section. Just whenever I talk about it, I like to shoot the link out. If you are
Fair
looking
enough.
for a case management software, this thing is amazing. It's also super cheap.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I like cheap. Cheap is fun. But Tanner, brother, I want to thank you specifically again for hanging out with me. I'm surprised you're not sick of me by now.
Nah, man, this is fun. Like I said, it's fun to bounce off people, and we're very similar in our approach. We focus on some different things, but I think doing this and like when we come together for stuff like this, we give people a well-rounded approach or view.
Yeah, 100%. And like we said, folks, the whole premise of tonight's show, yeah, we like to obviously have fun, but this is a serious conversation we were having. This is something that we both were talking about after our last show that doesn't get talked about. You hear all the great stuff that these teams do and these ghost hunters do, but you don't know all the work that goes into it.
Mhm.
And I want to go back to referencing Satori Haas when Brian and I spoke to her at Women Investigate 2, the show we hosted. We're only seeing a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour of, ghost hunters, right? What you're not seeing is them being there for a week or two and all that evidence that they go through. So if you think about it that way, 2 weeks worth of investigation compiled into 1 hour or a half hour, that's a lot. You don't see it all.
And it's a lot of work, but if you put the work in, like, you'll be surprised out of nowhere, you'll be doing like these random cases, and then suddenly like some big company calls you to come in because they want you to check out an Airbnb. They want you to check out a property that they're managing, or the military calls you to do a military base. Yeah.
Been there.
And it's because of the content you put out. It needs to be informative, and like I said, it needs to answer those questions. But you also need to, follow up and follow through. Is the big thing here.
100%. And I mean, I will attest to that. The
Mhm.
military called me in. I've done a military base. That was fun, by the way.
They are, yeah.
Lionsgate got a hold of me to promote the Conjuring movie. I thought that was, I told Tanner about that. I thought they were bullshit for until I met her. I was like, it was legit shit.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's so many different avenues that this can open up. Which is why I love our field. You never know who's watching. So that is why it's important for these shows, not just mine, but like Tanner's on Ghost Hunter Device or others here on Parapost Network. Share it out. Share it out. Let's have some
Mhm.
fun with this. And speaking of Parapost Network, before we get going, I want to say a huge thank you to our family over at Parapost Network Central. Great, great family. If you have a show you're interested in getting out there and having some fun with a great group, come on over to Parapost Network Central. Send us a message. Open for anything and everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be paranormal. I'm going to be doing some live podcasts from hunting, from fishing. I've even done driving. But, it doesn't matter. Come on over, hang out with us, have some fun, share the love. And I also want to give a huge shout out to my sponsor, Health Empowers You. Tanner, you're a health freak. You like health.
Yeah.
You like health. You like healthy things. Me, not so much. I'm a fat kid, but I do love Health Empowers You. And I know you know about Health Empowers You. They have an amazing selection of smoothies. There's a whole bunch of different things going on right now. Head on over to healthempowersyou.net. Check out what's going on. Coffee and teas will be coming soon. There's also a special announcement that was released today. So head over and check out what is going on and what is happening, because there's something big going on with Health Empowers You over on Facebook. So go check it out. Find out what it is. You'll be
Mhm.
surprised. But I want to thank them. And please, if you do go over there, get something. Use code PC05. Get yourself a little bit of extra of a discount. It's already cheap, but get it even cheaper. Why not? We like cheaper things. I do. As cheap as I can get them. But use PC05 checkout just to give you a little bit extra. But it's a huge thank you to them. And Parabid Studios, folks, will be kicking off here very soon. I am doing a revamp for that. So be aware, be listening in. And Tanner, you mentioned something earlier before we get going. You're going to be releasing a logbook. Do you want to talk about what you're going to be releasing?
Yeah. So I'm going through and I'm making a logbook. I'm making two, one's for investigators and one's for people who are experiencing hauntings. But it basically is journal style. It'll have everything that you need for investigation day to make sure that you're staying on top of things. Or if you're a hobbyist and you're going out to graveyards and doing different things, it has those resources, those tabs in there, so you can stay organized, get the practice you need, so that when you're going into someone's house, you know what to hit there. And that'll be up. If you go over to, if you want to connect with some of my stuff, head over to ghosthunteradvice.com, and any books or anything that I bring up will be on the storefront there, which is still being worked on. If you do want to support the show, and you want to look at like books that I recommend, equipment that I recommend, and vendors that I recommend for the paranormal field, ghosthunteradvice.com/affiliates, or just click affiliates on the website, and that's going to give you links that you can click on to buy your ghost hunting equipment, get books on ghost hunting. I currently have an affiliate link to a logbook there, and when you use those, I do get a small commission, and that goes towards supporting the show, buying new equipment to do things with. So that is something there. Also, a new show coming out, Truly Odd. Kristen and I are going to be doing some deep dives into some of the weirder stuff and parts of like legends that you know of, cryptids that you know of, but we're getting into some of the things that aren't reported, some of the really weird and true things that are not reported there. So that's Truly Odd. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, all of the podcasting apps, and connect with us on Facebook at Truly Odd Studios.
I'm excited. I'm especially excited for Mothman Shiny Ass. I cannot wait. I want to hear this.
Gonna be fun.
And I want to let you folks know too. Not only am I working on my book, but Tanner and I were talking about it. We both have different styles of investigating, and we both have different ways of approaching everything, as you guys just heard. I will be coming out with my logbook as well. Mine's going to be kind of similar to what Tanner has, but there are going to be some key differences, and we've already discussed it. We've already agreed upon it. So if somebody says, "Oh, you're stealing his idea," no, we're just putting our own spins on it. That's all. We're doing it just to get it out there, so everybody has an opportunity to learn and better their paranormal career. That's what it's about. So
there's no one right way.
No. There's a couple of wrong ways, but there's no right way.
Yeah. There's a lot of wrong ways.
Zach. Wow. I couldn't resist. But again, Tanner, thank you so much, brother, for joining me tonight. And again, thank you to Health Empowers You and Parapost Network Central. Also, guys, don't forget Global Ghost Hunt. It's coming up very, very soon. We still have some spots available, so go check it out at globalghosthunt.com. Sign up today. Seriously, you might want to hurry. We have spots are filling up quickly. So I guess that's it for me. I will catch up with you guys later. It only leaves one more thing left for me to say. Y'all have yourselves a great rest of your night. Have fun. Stay safe. But as always, guys, happy hauntings.